Welcome to our video. Today we're focusing on helping you improve your English pronunciation and speaking skills using shadowing techniques. Shadowing is a fantastic way to mimic natural speech patterns, improve your accent and gain confidence in speaking. Shadowing involves listening to native audio and simultaneously repeating it aloud to improve pronunciation, rhythm and fluency. Follow along, practice with us, and see how much progress you can make. Let's get started. The climb, a mountaineer's journey to the summit. The air was crisp and thin as Daniel stood at the base of Mount Arkenridge, his breath forming small clouds in the cold morning light. This was the day he had been training for, dreaming of, and fearing for years. The towering peak above him was as much a symbol of his ambition as it was of the challenge that lay ahead. At 4,800 metres, Mount Arkenridge was no Everest, but it was still a formidable opponent for a mountaineer like Daniel. The call to climb Daniel had not always been a climber. Growing up in a flat, urban sprawl, he had little exposure to the mountains. His love for climbing began during a family holiday in the Lake District when he was 16. One afternoon, he climbed Helvellyn with his father. The sense of achievement and the breathtaking view from the summit lit a fire in him that never died. Over the years, Daniel graduated from hiking to scrambling and finally to mountaineering. He trained rigorously, studying weather patterns, learning about equipment, and building his physical strength. Yet the climb to Mount Arkenridge's summit was unlike anything he had attempted before. It would test his endurance, courage, and determination like never before. The early struggles. The first few hours of the ascent were relatively straightforward. Daniel moved steadily, his crampons digging into the icy slope, his breathing controlled and rhythmic. His guide, an experienced mountaineer named Marco, set a moderate pace, reminding Daniel to conserve energy for the tougher sections ahead. As they climbed higher, the terrain became more challenging. The trail narrowed with sheer drops on either side. The wind picked up, slicing through Daniel's layers of clothing. He could feel the weight of his pack pressing down on his shoulders, and his legs began to ache from the unrelenting upward climb. "I can do this," Daniel muttered to himself, though his confidence was already beginning to waver. Facing fear, at around 3,200 metres, they encountered their first major obstacle, a narrow ridge known as the Razor's Edge. One misstep could send a climber plummeting into the void below. Daniel froze as he gazed at the daunting path ahead. His heart raced and his palms grew clammy despite the cold. "You're fine," Marco said calmly. "Focus on your steps, one at a time. Trust your gear." Daniel nodded, but the fear gnawed at him. His mind raced with thoughts of what could go wrong. He took a deep breath and forced himself to move. Step by step, he edged across the ridge, gripping his ice axe tightly and refusing to look down. When he finally reached the other side, a wave of relief washed over him, but the fear lingered. The physical toll. As they climbed higher, the air grew thinner, making it harder to breathe. Every step felt like a monumental effort. Daniel's muscles burned and his head throbbed from the altitude. He knew he was nearing his physical limit, but turning back was not an option he was willing to consider. At one point, Daniel stumbled and fell to his knees. Exhausted, he buried his face in his gloved hands. "I can't do it, Marco," he said, his voice trembling. "I don't have it in me." Marco knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You've trained for this," he said. "You're stronger than you think. Take it slow, rest when you need to, but keep moving forward. The summit is closer than you realise." Something in Marco's words reignited Daniel's determination. He stood up, adjusted his pack, and continued climbing, though every step felt like a battle. The final push. As they neared the summit, the conditions became even harsher. The wind howled like a living thing, and snow began to fall, reducing visibility. Daniel's goggles fogged up, forcing him to stop and wipe them clear every few minutes. His fingers were numb despite the insulated gloves, and he could barely feel his toes. But with each step, the goal came closer. Marco's encouragement and Daniel's sheer willpower carried him forward. He thought of all the training, the sacrifices, and the moments of doubt he had overcome to reach this point. He refused to let the mountain defeat him. Reaching the summit, finally, after what felt like an eternity, Daniel took one last step and found himself standing on the summit. The view was unlike anything he had ever seen. Endless peaks stretched out before him, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. The hardships, the fear, and the pain faded into the background as a profound sense of accomplishment filled him. Tears welled in his eyes, freezing on his cheeks as they fell. He had done it. He had conquered not just the mountain, but also his own doubts and limitations. Marco clapped him on the back. "Well done, mate. You've earned this." Daniel nodded, unable to speak. The wind carried away any words he might have said, but they were unnecessary. The mountain had taught him everything he needed to know. The descent. Though the descent was less physically demanding, it came with its own challenges. The fading light and worsening weather tested Daniel's focus and stamina. Yet, with every step down, his confidence grew. He had faced the mountain at its most unforgiving, and he had prevailed. By the time they reached the base, Daniel was utterly exhausted, but profoundly content. He looked back at Mount Arkenridge, now shrouded in mist, and felt a deep sense of respect for its power and beauty. Lessons from the summit. Daniel's journey to the summit of Mount Arkenridge was more than just a physical achievement. It was a testament to the power of perseverance, the importance of confronting fear, and the value of pushing beyond one's limits. The mountain had humbled him, tested him, and ultimately strengthened him. As he lay in his tent that night, his body aching but his spirit soaring, Daniel knew that this was only the beginning. There would be more mountains to climb, both literal and metaphorical, and he would face them all with the same courage and determination that had carried him to the summit of Mount Arkenridge. Thank you for watching the video. We hope this video was helpful for your English practice. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a comment below. Your feedback helps us improve, and by sharing your thoughts, you can connect with others on their English learning journey. Let's grow together. See you next time.